It's rare to see Charity Dingle struggle for words, but the Woolpack landlady was completely stunned when the manipulative Dr. Todd began blackmailing her. As viewers are aware, Todd has been making Jacob Sugden's life miserable ever since she started working at Hot & General last year. She has constantly made him doubt his decisions and shattered his confidence, doing everything possible to maintain control and authority, leaving Jacob a shadow of who he once was. The trainee medic has followed every demand, often staying up late to finish tasks with impossible deadlines set by Todd, who clearly wants him to fail. Whenever he manages to meet expectations, she criticizes his work, insisting he must improve, while even taking credit for his efforts. Tired of the mistreatment, Jacob reported Todd to HR earlier in the week and informed her of the complaint, refusing to tolerate her behavior any longer. However, Todd spotted a chance to turn things in her favor after saving Charity's life, following the birth of Jacob and Sarah's baby in a hospital lift. Although Jacob appreciated her actions, Todd quickly labeled him as weak, suggesting that if he continued with the complaint and she lost her job, future patients could suffer. Jacob rejected her argument, pointing out that she is the real danger, as her conduct could prevent future doctors from progressing in their careers. It became obvious that Todd was feeling pressured as Jacob stood firm. But soon, she found the advantage she had been seeking. While outside the hospital, Todd overheard a private conversation where Chas revealed that the baby Charity delivered is not actually Jacob and Sarah's, but her own biological child after a one-night encounter with Ross Barton. Wasting no time, Todd went straight to Charity's hospital room and revealed that she knew Jacob wasn't the father. Charity was left shocked. Todd claimed she would keep the secret, but in Thursday's episode of the ITV soap, she acted on it, demanding that Charity convince Jacob to drop the complaint or face the consequences. Charity called it blackmail, and that's exactly what it was. However, Todd carried it out in her usual calculated way, using a calm tone and a smile to soften the threat before making her demand. Later, Jacob visited Charity, and despite her hesitation, she followed Todd's instructions, warning him that continuing the complaint could damage his future career. With this in mind, Jacob eventually decided to withdraw the complaint. Todd was clearly pleased, but despite her talk of a fresh start, it's obvious that Jacob's ordeal is far from over. Emmerdale has unveiled a huge twist involving Dr. Todd following Charity Dingle's terrifying birth ordeal. The show delivered a shocking development as Charity survived the traumatic delivery while acting as a surrogate for Jacob and Sarah Sugden. Charity soon found herself forced to maintain another lie when Dr. Todd confronted her shortly after the intense scenes aired. While it seemed inevitable that the truth about baby Layla would eventually come out, viewers know that Todd is someone who always takes control of any situation. When they arrived at the hospital, the group stepped into a lift heading to the maternity ward, but it suddenly broke down, leaving them trapped inside. As Max struggled with panic due to his past trauma of being held captive in an underground bunker, Ross Barton stepped up and took charge, helping to deliver the baby. After Layla was born, both Mac and Ross grew alarmed when Charity became unresponsive and started bleeding. Once firefighters forced the lift doors open, Todd quickly took control, rushing Charity into surgery while entrusting Layla to Ross. However, in Wednesday's episode, Charity's situation took another troubling turn. After Chas questioned Ross about his presence at the hospital, Todd noticed their tense exchange and immediately became suspicious. Later on, she discovered that Layla's blood type didn't match Jacob's in the medical records, and with this discovery, she headed straight to confront Charity. Despite Charity's attempt to brush it off as an error and insist that Layla is Jacob and Sarah's child, Todd's reaction hinted otherwise, as she calmly told Charity to keep those stress levels down after Mac interrupted their private discussion. Fans are aware that Jacob has been dealing with ongoing bullying ever since Todd became his mentor. She even crossed a line by bringing up his past with Maya Stepney. Eventually reaching his limit, the trainee doctor filed an official complaint with HR. Now that Todd is aware of Charity's secret, the question remains: What will she do next? Mandy's shocking suggestion leaves Paddy horrified in Emmerdale, prompting him to storm off. Paddy Kirk is still grappling with the frightening possibility of going to prison next week, and Mandy Dingle's poorly chosen words only make things worse. Ever since Paddy learned that his father, Bear Wolf, had fallen victim to Celia Daniels' disturbing human trafficking and modern slavery scheme, his life has been turned upside down. With Celia and her son Ray Walters also exploiting his foster son Dylan Penders in their criminal operation, Paddy has felt the full impact of the situation. When he tried to rescue Dylan from being killed by Ray, he nearly lost his own life in the process. Bear stepped in and unintentionally killed Ray, a moment that changed everything. Paddy and Dylan then made the risky decision to hide Ray's body, hoping to protect Bear from facing consequences. However, Bear, deeply affected by the psychological trauma he endured under Ray's control and the horrific conditions he experienced, couldn't live with the guilt and eventually confessed. Determined to shield his father, Paddy, along with Dylan, admitted his involvement, leading to both of them being charged with perverting the course of justice. Since then, Paddy has been overwhelmed with fear about a possible prison sentence, while also worrying about Bear, who remains in custody awaiting trial. The pressure has taken a toll on Paddy's mental health, and after noticing similarities to a dark period in his past, he turned to his close friend Marlon Dingle for support. Their later discovery of Ray's bank records helped clear Moira Dingle, but it also made Bear appear even more guilty. The documents revealed that Ray had been hiding illegal earnings in an account under Bear's name, casting suspicion on him as a potential accomplice in the criminal operation. In upcoming scenes, Paddy's daughter Eve Dingle becomes deeply upset by rumours surrounding her father and his upcoming court case, prompting Paddy to realise he must explain the truth to her. Emotionally overwhelmed, Paddy tells Eve that he could end up in prison for helping her grandfather, leaving them both devastated as she pleads with him not to go. Seeing his distress, Mandy suggests that Paddy might consider letting Bear take the blame in court to free himself from the situation, leaving him stunned. Disgusted by her idea, Paddy walks away in anger. Although they later make amends and Mandy promises to stand by him no matter what happens, it's clear Paddy remains terrified about what lies ahead. With uncertainty hanging over him, questions remain about his future. Will the shadow of Celia and Ray continue to ruin his life? Could Paddy, Bear and Dylan all end up behind bars, forced to leave the village for an unknown period? For now, things are not looking promising for the much-loved village vet. Emmerdale is broadcast on weekday evenings at 8 p.m. on ITV1, and episodes can also be streamed on ITVX.